welcome to another Blender tutorial. My name is Raymond Gabriel, and today we will be learning how to create 2D game art character animation like this one. I will be making one of those characters, so without any further delay, let's get started. I will use this character. If you want to follow along, you can download it from a link in the description below. This character is probably created for game art, but I will be using it in Blender, so it will be hard to use it in this state, and I have to assemble all these pieces into one image using GIMP. So first off, let's open GIMP, press File, then New, make sure that the image size is 1920 by 1080, then press OK. Go to where the layer is and press the eye icon to remove the black color. Now go to where you set the character, drag and drop the first piece. To move this layer, you can use the move tool from here. You'll be able to move it. Now repeat the same step with all the other pieces. Now press File, then Export As. Okay, now we have it on a single image. Now go to Blender, press A to select everything, X to delete, press Shift A, go to Image, then Reference, go to where you save the character. As you can see, the character has been imported and the background is transparent, as we have removed the black color and only left the alpha channel. To reset the rotation of the image, press Alt plus R, then press R to rotate, then X for the X-axis, then 90, then Enter. Press R again, then Z, then 90, Enter. Press G to move, then Z, and move it above the grid like that. Press G, then X to move it backwards a little. What we need to do now is create a mesh for each piece of this character. To do that, you have to be on the right orthographic view and not perspective. So to change that, press 5 to go to the orthographic, and to go to the right view, you can just press Alt. When you go to this view, it will snap to the right orthographic, or from View, go to Viewpoint and select Right. And to switch without a numpad between perspective and orthographic, you can go from View, then select this option. For the next part, I will enable an add-on from Edit, Preference, then go to Add-ons, and here search for Extra and make sure that you have this add-on enabled. Add Mesh Extra Objects, then save Preference. What will this do? It will add new meshes. When you press Shift A, you will now have this single vert mesh that you can add. Press Shift and right click to change the location of the 3D cursor. This is where the new meshes will be added. So press Shift A, go to Mesh, then Single Vert, then add Single Vert. That will add a single vertex, which will then can press E to extrude, and that will extrude another vertex from it. We will repeat that until we have traced this whole piece. When you get to the first vertex, click to select one of them, then Shift, and left click the other one to select both of them, then press Alt plus M to merge these two vertices. You can press Add Center and they will both be merged at the center, or you can press F to fill this gap with a segment. Now press A to select all the vertices, then press Alt plus F to fill it with a face. Make sure that you press Alt plus F, not just F, because that will create a blank face. Alt plus F will create a face with segments in between. Right click and select Subdivide. That will add vertices in the middle of these segments, which is exactly what we want, because to be able to animate correctly, you have to get a lot more vertices. So from the Subdivide menu, go to the number of cuts and change it to something like 10. Press Tab to go to Object Mode. I will repeat these steps again for each piece I have for this character. Now I have a mesh for each part of this character. What I need to do now is put the image that I have here as a texture on top of these meshes. To do that, we first need to add a material, so go to the material tab from here and then press new. Go to the corner of the viewport here until you see the white cross. Press and drag to split the viewport into two. Then from here select shader editor. This is where we can manipulate the material of the mesh. What you see by default is this principal BSDF node, and in it there is the base color of the material. To be able to see the material in the viewport, you have to go to the viewport shading from here. So let's go to viewport shading, and as you can see, the scene is dark. That's because we don't have light in the scene, so let's add it very quickly. Shift A, then light, select sun, move it by G, then rotate towards the character like that. Maybe go to the settings of the sun and change the strength to 5. Now let's return to the material, and now if I change the base color, you will see that it's changing in the viewport. But I do not want it as a basic color. I want it to be this texture. So to do that, I have to add the texture here as a node. Press Shift A, then go to texture and add image texture. From here you can select previously added images, and we can select the character. Now we can connect the color to the base color, but now we cannot see anything because Blender do not understand how to wrap this image on top of the mesh, and all we can see is a black color. So we need to unwrap this mesh and create a UV map for it. To do that, you have to first split this view into two parts again, then go to here, choose UV editor. To unwrap any mesh, you have to go to edit mode by pressing tab and select everything by pressing A and press U. That will give you the unwrapping methods that you have. If you press unwrap, from here you will see the UV map that has been created. But as you can see that the UV is not oriented correctly and it's in a different scale. So to unwrap this mesh exactly as it is in the viewport, you can press U and select project from view. That will project the mesh exactly as you see it in the viewport. Now you can just move it and place it where the chest piece is. To be able to do this method faster without having to manipulate the UV here, you can just create a camera. So press Shift A, then select camera, press Alt R to remove any rotation on the camera, then press R, then X, then 90, R, Z, 90, then G, X, and move it backwards like that. Press 0 on your numpad to go to the camera view, or you can press view, then camera, then active camera. Now go to the settings of the camera and change the type from perspective to orthographic. Now we need to fit the bounds of the camera to the bounds of the image. Move it by pressing G, make sure that you have it selected. And then from the orthographic scale, you can press and drag and press Shift to slow down the increments. Keep scaling until you have it. Then press G again and try to fit it as much as you can. It doesn't really matter at this point, as long as it's more or less the same bounds. Now, if we press Tab and go press U, when we project from view, it will respect the borders of the camera, and that will create a UV at exactly this part of the image. So we can now just select all these pieces by pressing Shift and go to Tab and then press U, then project from view. But we still need to add the material that we have created, so go to the material tab and from here select the material we have created for the chest piece. You'll see that the corresponding part of the image will appear on the mesh because it's unwrapped correctly in the same position as it's in the image behind it. As you can see, there is still a black border around the pieces of the character. That is the alpha channel, which is supposed to be transparent and not black. So what we have to do is connect the alpha output of the image from here to the alpha input of the material. So connect the alpha to the alpha. Now go down in the materials tab, keep going down until you see settings, and then from the settings change the blend mode to alpha clip. Now the black border is transparent. Okay, now we don't need the reference image, we can now delete it. What we need to do now is assemble these pieces. We can just move these parts like that, but the problem is now that the parts of the character is overlapping on each other, so we need to move it on the x-axis. Any movement on the x-axis will not be seen in the camera because we are in orthographic view, so we will not be seeing any movement along the third dimension. We are creating a 2D character, so any movement on the third dimension will not be seen. So select a piece and then press G, X. Try to move them as far apart from each other as you can. Now we have the character assembled and ready to be rigged. To rig the character, press Shift and right click on the torso piece. You will see that the 3D cursor is now snapped on top of this part of the character. When you press Shift A, anything you will add will be added on top of this mesh. So we need to add a skeleton or armature, so press Shift A and select armature. That will add a single bone for this piece. As you can see, the bone is being hidden from the layers in front of it, so we need to see it at all times. So go to settings here and from viewport display select in front. What will that do is we will now be seeing the bones all the time, even it's obscured with the layers in front. Press S to scale this bone, press Tab to go to edit mode. Now press E to extrude another bone. Okay, we need to create more bones for the other parts. To do that, make sure that you press Shift and right click so that the 3D cursor is snapped to the other part. Now press Shift plus A and that will add a new bone at the location of this part. Now press R to rotate this bone. Make sure that the big part is at the base or at the shoulder and the narrower part of the bone is looking downwards like that. Press E again and another one for the hand. Okay, press Shift and right click on this. As you can see, I'm always changing the view with the middle mouse button to see if the 3D cursor has snapped on the right part. Now press Shift A, another one for the head, Shift and right click, Shift A, scale. Make sure that you respect the knee of the leg, so create the bones like this. Okay, perfect. Now let's test the bones. So go to pose mode by pressing Ctrl plus Tab. Go to pose mode, or from here go to pose mode. Now when I select any bone and rotate it, it will be moved. And as you can see, all the bones that have been extruded from this one is respecting the rotation of the first bone, because it's now parented to this bone. If I press and select this bone and rotate it, all the bones after it is now respecting its rotation. But now, as you can see, when I rotate the chest bone like that, the head and the two arms supposedly should also be moving with it. So what we need to do is parent these two bones and the head bone to the chest bone. So go to edit mode by pressing tab, select this bone and this bone by pressing shift and left clicking. Now the last bone that you'll select is the parent bone. Make sure that the parent bone is the last one selected. Now press Ctrl P and keep offset. As you can see, there is that dashed line appeared. That indicates that these bones are now children to this bone. When I go to pose mode and try to move it, these bones are respecting its rotation now. Okay, let's do the same thing with the leg bones, but now parented to this base bone. Ctrl P and keep offset. Now because we don't need these two viewports, I can go to the middle and press right click, join areas, and I join these two parts, right click, join areas. Now what we need to do is attach the character to the bones. So when these bones move in the pose mode, the mesh will follow it as well. So select all the parts by left clicking and shift, and left clicking on all the other pieces. Now the last thing you want to select is the bones itself. Now press Ctrl P and you will get the parent menu. Now select with automatic weights. This is the easiest way to attach the mesh to the bones. What we want to do is when I rotate it, you will see that the character is now rotating. Let's test all the parts. But there is a problem here. When I select the arm bone and move, you will see that the chest piece is also moving, which is not quite what we want. We only want these bones to affect only the arm bone. That is why I was telling you to move these parts away from each other as you can, so these bones should not influence any other mesh. Now if I do the same step again and select every part and go to the parent menu, Ctrl P, and select with automatic weights and try it again. Now that has fixed the problem, and this bone is now only affecting the arm and not the torso. But you might also want the torso piece to be moving with these bones a little, as the shoulder bone is moving. And also you might want to change how this bone is influencing the bottom part of the torso, because it's now influencing it too much. So to do that, you have to customize the weight paint. So to do that, select the piece you want to edit, then go here and select weight paint. You can also press Ctrl plus Tab and select weight paint from this menu. Now the mesh will be changed to this blue color. This is where you can customize your weight paint. As you can see now, from this tab, you will see all the vertex groups with all the bones. Each one of them have different weights affecting this part of the mesh. As you can see, the first two bones are this and this bone. It's good practice to change the names of the bones, so you will be able to know which one of these are corresponding to which bones in the viewport. So we first need to do that. So select the armature and then press tab to go to edit mode. Select the bone, and then from this tab you can change the name from here. I will do that quickly. Okay, now I have named all the bones. Let's return, select the part you want to edit, and then go to weight paint. Now if you go here, you'll see all the bones now have the right names to it. If I select the base bone, you'll see the influence it has on the mesh. First we need to understand what the color means. The red color means 100% influence, the green means 50%, and the blue means no influence. So the upper torso is affecting the top part of the torso the most, but it's also affecting the lower part of the torso too much. As you can see, there is a green color here, so it's affecting by 50%, which is not what we want. What you can do is change the weight from here, and now you can paint this part with the blue color. If you change it to 1 again and paint, you will paint with the red color. Press F to scale the brush. Now to test it, go to pose mode and try to move this bone. You will see now that this part is not being affected from this bone, which is right what we want. We also want this bone to be affecting the shoulder a little, so to do that, go again to the torso and go to weight paint. Now from here select the corresponding bone, which I named it upper arm .L, which is this bone. You will see that now it's not affecting it at all, and it's at 0%. So let's give it a little influence, like 0.2 maybe. Now let's test it, go to pose mode and move it. I think it's okay for now. Let's do it for the other arm as well. Let's paint here a little. Okay, now that we have the character setup or the rig setup, we need to make it a little more animation friendly so we can animate it easily. To do that, we want to make controllers for the arm bones and the leg bones. So to do that, go to edit mode, select the bone of the hand and press Shift plus D to make a duplicate of this bone. Go to this tab and change its name to IK_controller.L. The controller bones have to be free and not parented to any other bone. So to unparent it, press Alt P, or you can go to this tab here, and from relations you can remove the parent by clicking this X. Now this bone is free and not parented to anything. Okay, now go to this bone, go to pose mode, Control Tab, select pose mode, go to this tab which is the constraint tab, and from here add inverse kinematics. Now go here and change the target to the armature. When you do that, a new tab will appear with the bone name in it. Now select IK controller that you have created. Now you can see this yellow line appeared, which is how many bones that will be influenced by this controller. Now everything is moving with it, which is not what we want. So to fix that, you have to change how many bones that will be affected from this controller. So right now you have a chain length of 0. This is how many bones will be affected. So 0 means all the bones. So it will try to go back one step. The first bone that will be affected will be this bone, and then this bone, and then we'll go to its parent, which is this bone, and then this bone. So all the bones will be affected. We only want this bone and this bone to be affected from the controller. So just change the chain length to 2, 1, 2. Now you see the yellow line has changed to this bone. When we select the controller and press G, you will see that now only the hand is being controlled from this controller. But now the problem is the hand bone is not respecting this bone, and when I rotate the IK controller, the hand controller is not moving with it. I'm trying to simplify the rig so I can have only one controller at each end. So to do that, select the hand bone, then go to the constraint tab, then add bone constraint, select copy rotation. From here select the target armature, and then from the bone select the IK control, and that will snap this bone to the location of the IK controller. Now if I move it and then if I rotate it, the hand bone will also move with it. I will repeat the same steps for these bones. To return to the original position of the bones, you can press Alt R and Alt G to reset any movement or rotation that you have done on the bones. So to reset everything, press A to select everything and press Alt R, Alt G to return every bone to its original location. Okay, now that I'm done with all the controllers, let's test everything. Oh, I have a problem here where the leg is protruding out of the torso, which is not something that I want. I want the whatever he's wearing to be moving with the leg. So to do that, I have to change the weight paint again. So select the part you want to edit, go to object mode, select this part, and go to weight paint. From here, select the bone you want to change the weights for, which is the upper leg, which is this bone, and then change the weight. There's another method to apply weights to the mesh, which is by vertex paint and not by just normal brush painting. So select here, vertex selection. Now you have all the vertices that is creating this mesh appearing. Now press Alt A to deselect everything. Now press B for box select. Now if you go here, you will see this slider appeared. If you go to 0 and press assign, all these vertices will now have 0% weight. Let's try to redo this paint again. Maybe we want this part to move along with this. We are now done with the rigging. We are ready for the animation. Down there you have the timeline. If you don't have it, split the viewport here and choose it from here, timeline. How animation works is when you want to move this hand maybe from here to here, like that. We just need to set up a keyframe at this location and another keyframe at this location. So simply, while in this position, press I, and that will get you the insert keyframe menu. Select from here location, rotation, scale. That will save the location and the rotation and scale of this bone in this keyframe. As you can see, we now have this yellow diamond. This is the frame that you have for this position of this bone. Now, if you move the marker to a different time, let's say 24, and then change the bone location here and the rotation, for example. Now press I again to insert another keyframe and select location, rotation, scale. Now you have two keyframes. When you move the marker between them, you will see that the bone is now moving from this location to this location. If you go here and make another viewport, select here dope sheet. From here you can edit your keyframes a little more better than the timeline. Each bone you have can be animated. So if I simply go to this bone, move this frame to 1 and then press I, then location, rotation, scale. As you can see now I have another bone, the other IK controller. Oh, maybe change the marker first, move the location of the bone, then I, location, rotation, scale. Now we have these two bones move at the same time. If you want to change the time where this animation is occurring, you can just select the frame, the two frames in front of this bone, press G to move these frames. Now you can move it on the timeline. If I change it here, for example, now when I press play, you will see that this bone starts moving first, and then when we get to this frame, the other bone will start moving. As you can see here, these two leg bones have controllers, so when I move the base bone, the controllers do not move. All the controllers are at their location, and they will not be influenced with this bone. So when I move it, they are fixed in their position, which will make animation a little more easier. So now I can go to the first frame here. Make sure that you have the bone that you want to animate. Select it, press I, location, rotation, scale. It's a very simple animation, but you get the idea. So right now what I need to do is create a bone that will be able to move the whole character. Right now I only have the base bone, which doesn't control the IK, and the IK control the limbs. So I will create another bone by going to edit mode, shift A to create another bone, and this will be my main controller. Let's move all the bones that I will not be using in my animation to another layer, so I will be able to select my controllers easier. Make sure you have the right bone selected, press M, and that will get you the change bone layers menu, and you can select square from here and it will change the layer of this bone. Select all your IK controllers and move them to this layer. Also select the main controller, the base bone, the upper body and the head, and move them here. Now if you go to this tab, you will see all the layers that you have for your bones. If you select this layer, you will only see your controllers. Now I can easily select the base bone, the controller bones, and the main controller. The last bone is the main controller, so I can parent to it, Control P, and select Keep Offset. Now when I go to pose mode and try to move this bone, the whole character is now moving. I can move it here, for example, and move this, move this. I have full control over my character. Press Alt R, Alt G, and that's it. Now that I'm done with my animation, if you want to export this one out, all you have to do is go to this tab here, the render tab. As this is a 2D render, so you can change the sampling to something like 10. So to render this out, go to this tab, change the output folder from here. Press accept. Now the output of the render will be stored in this location. You can choose the file format from here, PNG, or you can also change it to a video file. I like to store it as a PNG file and then move to another video editing software and use the sequence, image sequence, and make the videos there. But you can also use these formats as well. Now go to render from here and press render animation. Now the render will start. As you can see, the frames. There's one more thing I forgot to mention. Press escape to stop the animation, stop the render. From here you can change how many frames you want to render. So from start 1 to end 250, you will render a total of 250 frames. You can change that to the maximum of the frames that you have, which is 33. I only animated 33 frames, so I can change the end to 33 and render animation again. In your folder, you will have all the frames that you rendered, or if you have chosen the file format for video, you will have the video file. I hope that you found the video useful. If you did, don't forget to like, share and subscribe for more tutorials like this. Check out my last videos from these links. Thank you for watching and goodbye.